I might as well just set myself up for
I got
this.
you tomorrow and off just because
Okay.
I'm on another thing, I go for
I'll take.
a run or something else.
Yeah, I don't
So-
think those are the best days. You don't have it all.
Yeah.
Work my bubble for me.
I might as well just set. I just broke my own. Yep.
Oh, you can fix it. Give it to Andrew, let him do it.
That's okay, I can't
No
get Wi-Fi. No Wi-Fi. This is, I give up. It's not my day.
I might have one.
No, I don't, it's okay, I'm not getting Wi-Fi anyway, so I'm going to the paper.
Okay.
Oh.
Jason, just give me a nod.
Yeah, we're gonna meet back in the bar. Before. Yeah. Because it's not open.
Oh.
Perfect. Just rip it.
I know, sorry, I'm just, just like playing with it in church here, just, are you ready?
We're ready.
Okay. It is 5:33. We'll call this special session to order. Gail, can we start with roll call?
Certainly. Tyler?
Here.
Jeff?
Yep.
John?
Here.
Deb?
Here,
And Andrew?
Here.
okay. Tonight's work session, I think we'll start with approval of an agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will begin with, we have some search firm interviews, and our first, we are going to be doing some of these via Zoom. So there's two screens here. Of course, we'll zoom off here to the left, and I think this is the document that they will be sharing, is that right? And they're kind of coordinating with you, Gail,
Yeah.
on that, okay? So, we have, first up is McPherson and Jacobson out of Omaha. And it looks like Mike Billings and Miles Schwartz are going to be there. Are you okay to just turn it over? Okay, we'll just turn it over to you, sir.
Mike is unmuting himself.
There we go. No, I'm not. Technology, here we go. Thank you. I'm Mike Billings, retired superintendent from Roland Story, as a matter of fact. But I've been with McPherson and Jacobson for 6.5 years now. We really, really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you tonight about our services and being a neighbor and having known 3 of your superintendents and good friends with John Kinley, and before that, I can't remember Doug's last name, but yeah, Doug actually filled in for me when I was out on a medical thing, so it was good close friends. Anyway, excuse me. So anyway, we're representing McPherson and Jacobson, and I'll have Lyle introduce himself.
Yes, again, thank you for having us. I'm also a retired superintendent, 15 years as a superintendent, 16 as a principal, and 6 of those years were at South Hamilton. So I was in the same conference as Gilbert for those 6 years, and I've been retired. This is my 4th year of retirement, and I joined McPherson and Jacobson shortly after retirement. So I'm in my 4th season of working with McPherson and Jacobson doing searches.
Thanks, Lyle. A little bit more about me. I was superintendent for 19 years. I was 4 years in Northeast Iowa and spent 15 years with Roland Story and retired 7 years ago now. A little bit about McPherson and Jacobson. You have, Gail, did they get an electronic version of the proposal?
Yes, they did.
Okay, so they all have that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with the history of the firm, but the firm has been in existence since 1991. We've placed over 800 leaders of nonprofits and schools, public schools, or schools across the nation in that time. We have over 110 consultants across the nation So we are a nationally recognized firm. I think we still have the School Board Association in California hired Mac and Jake as their representative. So we have presence all over. And what that means, we'll talk about a little bit later. But with our placements, we take a lot of pride in the fact that when we find the right person for the district, our success rate has been outstanding. When I say success rate, I would equate that to consistency. We know that leadership, school district leadership consistently, if it's consistent, makes a difference in performance. And I could say that about Gilbert. How many superintendents over the last 30 years, even longer than that? And if you look at how your district has performed, something about leadership and consistency in that leadership makes a difference. So when we place people, we take a lot of pride in the fact that the people that we've placed in leadership positions, after 5 years, over 70% of the people that we've placed are still in those positions. And if you look 10 years down the road, 50% of the people that we place are still in the same position. And go 15 years down the road, and we're over 40%. So I think we have a great track record, and I think that's enough about the firm itself. But I'm going to move on to our approach. I think that Gail mentioned to us today that we get about 20 minutes to present, and then you're going to have some questions, and perhaps we'll answer those questions during in our proposal. But so let's talk a little bit about our approach. How do we work with school districts, and what do we do that we think separates us from the others? First of all, we let you have the ownership of the search. Obviously, we have a process that we want to use, and we don't want to deviate from that process. But throughout the whole process, you have input, and you're the people that are telling us what to do, because you're the people that know the district. So we're going to count on you throughout it, but counting on it is different than having you do a lot of the work. You really don't have to do anything except provide us information and work with us until we get to the interviews. And we don't take any part in the interview other than if you want us to be there, we can be there with you, for you. The other thing that we'll come up with a timeline for you. The timing for this search is outstanding. It's perfect. You're ahead of the game. There are a few searches going in the state right now, but nothing at this size or the desirability of your job. You guys are sitting on a tremendous opportunity for superintendents, and people know that. So we'll help you with a timeline, and we'll work on that. We're very comprehensive. We do everything, like I said. We're transparent. And in today's world, we all know that transparency is critical in the public sector. We're going to involve the community to the extent that you guys want. You're going to tell us which stakeholder groups you want us to work with. We'll get that information from those groups, and we'll provide it to you guys. We value confidentiality. In our searches, the only time people will know who the candidates are the last meeting we have with you, when you identify the ones that you are going to interview. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Obviously, these people are taking a risk because they're coming from jobs. And that's and by being confidential, we think it encourages more participation, more people, more interest. And we found that. We're going to work with you until we place the superintendent. So in other words, if we don't find a great cadre of possibilities, and you don't like what we bring to you to begin with, we're going to go back out and start again, and we're going to find the people that you want to interview. But we're not going to leave. We're going to keep working until we find that person and that person has signed that contract. And then beyond that, we're going to work with you as we transition that new person into your district. The other thing I think that separates us is we give you a guarantee. If at the end of the first year, things just don't go well, it just, whoever fault it is, whatever happens, if you part ways after that first year, we're going to come back out, use our process, not charge you for anything except our expenses to be on your campus and to work with you for those meetings. Excuse me. And then the other thing I think that really does separate us, and I think it will be a benefit for you, is we have a lot of knowledge of this area, and we have a lot of knowledge of your school district and the districts around you. So I think that could be a huge plus for you. Lyle, anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think you're covering it well, Mike. Go ahead.
I want to talk to you just a little bit. Any questions before I go on?
No.
Okay. I want to let you know that if you look at page 19 of the proposal, you can see what the cost is. And we break ours down in two different categories. We have a base cost of $7,900 for this search. But we guarantee you that our expenses will not exceed $700. So you've got a guarantee there. If you hire us, Lyle and I, you're your district, and we both live in Story City. So as far as travel or anything like that, it's going to be minimal. So you can look at what else is in the proposal as far as the investment, but it is page 19. I'm going to move on to our process, and I'd refer page 6 in the proposal if you want to. Can you put that up top, Gail? Thank you. We have a 5-phase process, and each phase is very important. Each phase is, I think, critical in how we'll be successful. So I'm going to take you through each one of those. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each, but when we're done, if you have questions, I'll certainly entertain them. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to come out and work with you. We're going to work with the board on putting together the idea of what type of person you want leading your district. We call those criteria, and we'll lead you through a consensus building process. And I'm going to stop right now and tell you that while we're doing Zoom tonight, I'm comfortable enough that I will be on campus for that meeting and probably the meetings that we have with you, because I think it's easier for me to read people and get things done that way. Lyle may do some note taking via Zooms. We might do both. We might do some of both. We might both come there. But right now, I would say that one of us for sure will be in the meetings with you, and we'll work it out as we get down the road. And who knows what's going to happen tomorrow with the virus. We see
I will tell you, I will be there if I feel that I can. My wife is a cancer patient, and we just are not taking very many risks. But I do believe that I can be very involved in the process and very helpful, whether I'm there in person or working with you via Zoom if Mike is there.
I'm going to go back to that first phase and that first meeting. The criteria is critical. I think it's probably the most important part of our process, because it's what we're going to refer back to every time we talk about selecting a superintendent. You're going to tell us what type of person, and we are going to define that type of person. We're going to set the 5 or maybe 6 criteria with a definition, so that at the end of this whole thing, when you interview 2, 3, 4 potential superintendents, we can eliminate the emotions and we can go back to those criteria and we can say, hey, wait a minute, folks, remember we said this, 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 and this. which one of these candidates fit the bill best for our district. And I think that's the key for our success, folks. I think that's why we've done so well, is we identify the best candidates for you that meet those criteria. And so setting that in the first meeting and that first time that I come out, or we come out, is critical. We're going to also set up timeline. You're going to ask me, when do you think we can get it done? Well, I was looking at the calendar yesterday, and I'm going to tell you, with holidays and everything else, I think it's possible to have a new superintendent by the end of January. We'd have to work hard, and everything would have to fall in place over the holidays as far as reference checks, et cetera. But I think it's possible to have a new superintendent identified by the end of January, beginning of February at the latest. The thing I don't want to short, folks, is this is such a good job. I don't want to short the amount of time we're going to advertise. By starting now, you're giving us enough time to advertise, okay? So I think you'll read in our proposal that usually it's 2 to 3 months, and that's the norm for us. Have we fast-tracked things in the past? Yes. I don't think we're in a situation where we have to do that with you. I think we're really in good shape. Now, we're also going to talk at that time about advertising, and that will be the first phase of our process. One other thing that we'll add to that, I think, is we'll work with Gail, because we don't have access to the school board association site, to get some comparability as far as what you do for a range of salaries. We're not going to set the salary at that meeting, but as soon as we get the job, we're going to start getting phone calls. And the first question on those phone calls is going to be, how much do you think they're going to pay? Now, I was on the Department of Education site a couple days ago, and if I'm correct, if I looked at a group of 40 schools your size, it looks like Lindsay is right about in the middle of that group as far as salary and benefits. But we'll dig into that and know a little bit more about it as we go down the road. Then we're going to move into the second phase. The second phase is when we're going to gather data for you from your district. We call those stakeholders. You're going to tell us who you want involved in this process. Who do you want us to talk to? Who do you want us to find information out? And we ask 4 questions from each one of those groups. Groups could include administrators, teachers, non-certified staff, community members, parents, whatever, and students, we hope. Students are critical in this whole thing also. We're going to ask them 4 questions, and all those same 4 questions to every group. We're going to ask them what they think that the person should look like, what potential problems exist. We're going to ask them to give us some characteristics that they see in a new superintendent, and
The benefits and the good things from your school district and your community.
So we ask those same questions for every group. We write down everything we hear from every group. We bind that into a report, provide that to you, so you know what the community is looking for. And then we also provide a copy for your new superintendent. Gives them some more information as they move into their job. We're going to develop the application at that meeting. And it's a unique application, folks. It's unique to Gilbert because we develop a question in our application on the criteria that you set. Every one of the candidates will have to write about those criteria and how he or she fits that criteria. So we use that when we vet the candidates. And then we're going to start recruiting. I'm going to guarantee you that we're going to make phone calls all over the state of Iowa. I have a connection at UNI, and we'll talk to Iowa State, we'll talk to Iowa, we'll talk to people throughout the AEAs, et cetera. But we'll start recruiting, and we'll also be fielding phone calls because people, like I said, people are going to be interested in this position. Our third phase is when Lyle and I really do the hard work on our end. We start vetting those candidates. We start with those questions in the application to find out, first of all, if they meet the criteria that you want. And then we're making phone calls, not only to their references that they list, but we make cold calls because we know a lot of people that may be in those districts. And we also ask everybody we call for 2 to 3, 4 names of somebody else we could call and get a phone number from them. So we go at least 3 to 5 deep on every candidate that we talk on, every reference we talk to. I think obviously you can't guarantee everything. And some people can tell stories, but as deep as we get, we generally find out what's going on out there. At that time in the third phase also, we'll develop our questions for the interviews. And that's critical because we're going to provide you with some questions. You're going to write some questions, but those questions regard your criteria throughout, okay? So when you're interviewing those candidates, you're getting a picture of somebody that you want. Then we're going to get to the phase 4, and that's when we're going to come out with what we call the people that we're going to advance for your consideration. Those are the people that we think best meet your criteria. Whether it's 4, 5, 6, 8, I can't tell you that right now. I've never taken more than 8 out to be considered out of the group that we've had, and I've had as few as 2 or 3. But I'm guessing we're going to have several great candidates for you to consider when we get to that point. With those people, whomever we are advancing, we're going to make them do a video interview on 3 questions. And you'll have access for those videos during that meeting in closed session so that you'll get an idea of who we're advancing and how you put a face to the paper. And they'll answer three simple questions, talk a little bit about themselves, talk about their transition plan that they would have for the district and something that they're proud of. Is that right, Lyle? Did I miss anything in those 3 questions? So you'll get on every one of the ones that we advance for your consideration. You'll get that. Also, at that time, we're going to help you decide. We'll help you set the interviews. We'll set the schedule for you. And as long as we're talking about interviews, there are a couple different approaches. We could do a semifinal finalist type thing where the board itself would want to interview maybe 4 or 5 for a couple hours, narrow that group down to 2 and do a full board all-day interview with your stakeholder groups, etc. Or the traditional method of bring in 3 or 4 for the whole day interviews with your groups that you want that would be involved in that. That's going to be your decision. If you have a different way to do that, we'll help set that up for you. We'll also set up stuff for significant others. We will provide you packets on all of the people that you decide to interview, so that you have a little history. You'll have their application form and their resume on each one of those people. We'll also bring the whole list of the people who have completed applications for your job. Now, we think that we're trained to narrow that field down to the best people for you to consider. But when you see the list of everybody that applies and you recognize a name or 2, you'll ask us, why didn't you include this person? And we will go right down the list. This is in closed session. And at the end of that, if you say, I appreciate that, we really would like to interview this person anyway, we'll set that up. And we'll get you as much information on that person as we possibly can before the interviews, because it's still your search. And then we'll be with you. The last interview, one of us will come down there and help you negotiate or deliberate, if you need some help with that, if you want us to be there to help you deliberate, to get you to your finals. What we've found in the last several years is it's really gotten down to they have difficult situations. 2 or 3 of them really meet the need. Which one's the best one? We're not going to tell you, but we'll help you deliberate when it comes to that. It's our hope, folks, that we give you a tough night after that last interview. But we'll help. Again, we won't say who would you pick. We won't do that. But then if you'd like us to that evening help you negotiate a contract, we're more than happy to do that for you. Then our fifth phase, real quickly, is we'll come back out after the new superintendent is in place, and we'll help you and the new superintendent with transition. We'll help identify a couple of performance objectives that I'll call the new superintendent periodically, and I'll call the board president to talk about those performance markers or whatever we'd like to call them. So we're there to help you with the transition, because sometimes it is difficult. Anytime you move, I don't care if you're experienced or not. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna ask Lyle if I forgot anything. You want to add anything, Lyle?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. I guess I just want to emphasize a few things, about what sets McPherson and Jacobson apart. Our philosophy, our company's philosophy, Mike's philosophy as a superintendent, and mine, is it's all about the kids. We're here to provide the best opportunity for kids, and your district has proven very successful at that, and it's our job to help you find that best candidate. Again, we have a very transparent process. We are a nationwide firm, but we have an Iowa focus. So we have our website gets over 200,000 hits a month of people looking for jobs. And so we have people that are looking to come back to Iowa, that are from Iowa. But I don't know that there's a search that I've been a part of that we haven't had several out-of-state candidates, and that's not always what we're looking for. But there's a lot of strong people that are from out of state that might be what you're looking for. We don't know. But national firm, strong Iowa focus. Again, a great track record of success. And that's because we as consultants dig so deeply and do everything we can to find the best fit to match those criteria, those characteristics that you tell us that you want. That is what we spend so much time on. And, we do a lot of it by phone, but we also have tools available to us to do it in a more scientific way if we need to try to make those things fit. One of the other things that I think really sets us apart at McPherson and Jacobson and some of the other firms, we as individual consultants usually only work on 1, maybe 2 searches at a time. Some of the other firms we think are involved in many searches, and it's nice to have those, I guess, but at the same time, we focus on you so that we can give our 100% effort to finding the best candidate for you instead of having our time spread out among others. And then again, the ongoing support for the new person and the guarantee. So those are just some of the things that kind of a summary that I think that we think set McPherson and Jacobson apart from some of the other firms.
Thank you very much. Both of you, that was very helpful information. We have a few minutes here to go before I want to make sure that we stop in enough time.
There we go.
So we have about 15 minutes. Should we just dive into some questions and answers? Okay. Was there anybody that would like to start in particular on the board?
I've got one question to start with. And Mike, you mentioned the importance of criteria and meeting with the board to establish the criteria that we would be looking for a new superintendent.
Mm-hmm.
Help me a little bit with that, and then later meeting with stakeholder groups and asking them what they're looking for. I think we would absolutely want to make sure we got alignment there, or help us with how you set the expectations for the non-board groups if we've got different criteria.
Well, a great question. The criteria honestly is just a description of what you want in your district. And to be honest, you guys are elected to represent those people. So when I talk about criteria, you could say to me, Mike, I want somebody that's good in school leadership. That's a great criteria that we use in a lot of districts. But what does that mean to you? And what does it mean to each one of your other board members? And we're gonna blend that, if it is a criteria, so that the definition of it reflects Gilbert's. And to do that with all the different stakeholder groups is almost you almost would have to start a year in advance to get enough information to you. What we've done, what we've found is your representative, and so we take those criteria out to our stakeholder groups and ask them to add to this. One of the questions that we ask every group is, what build us a Frankenstein, build us a superintendent. What does it look like? And then you're going to see that on top of what you guys have already set before you come to your decision as to who you're going to interview. Does that help?
Yep. Yes, so what I heard was bringing what we've already established to those groups and build on that, not starting from scratch. Because my only concern would be with alignment there.
Correct. We really need to get those criteria because, like I said, we're going to advertise with that criteria and the application. So we've got to be ahead of the game, and to try and get all the stakeholder stuff, et cetera. It's a timing thing also.
Sure.
And a part of that also is to allow those stakeholder groups to have input, and everyone that has input feels like they're more a part of the process. And the timing of it is maybe a little bit tricky at times, because we do need to get it from you right up front. And then later we do talk to the stakeholder groups, but that is still a very important part of the process.
Thank you.
I got a quick question. You mentioned advertise a few times for the position. Just real briefly, hit me on what does advertising mean? Just website? You said you've got contacts throughout the state and outside, but where else would you advertise a position at?
Within the proposal, and I'll find the page. In the investment page, you'll see it on page 19. You'll see within the expenses, there's a list of the things that we advertise. Obviously, once upon a time, everybody advertised in the Des Moines Register. That's archaic. We don't do that anymore. But we think we have a good list right there. Tom has been doing this for quite a long time, and we get a lot of interest from those spots. Do you see those?
Yep, I got it.
Okay. But if there are other areas that you guys are aware of, we can look it up and find out if there's any cost or things like that. Lyle mentioned the number of hits we get. So far, in 6.5 years of working on searches, I've not had a district ask me to advertise someplace else. And most of the people, we can track it back to our website. And I think the actual number is over 250,000 hits monthly, especially at this time of the year when the jobs are out there. That help?
Yep.
So you say a hit after, I got to move over. After you get a hit, do you guys track how long they stay on the site after the initial hit?
I honestly don't know the answer to that one, but I can find out for you, and I can give Gail a call or shoot her an email.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Mike, I have a question for you. What are the tools or processes you use to, hone in on this having good leadership skills or school leadership skills? That's a pretty vague thing, and I understand you know, certainly we can gain a lot from their experience. One of the things we use at our bank is the strength-based leadership. It's a Gallup kind of thing, and it's about a 2-minute test or 5-minute test, really easy to do. Do you guys have any tools like that to discern, so that not only is it something that I'm saying, we can look at some tool or process to be like, yeah, that's kind of how it comes out on paper too.
If I'm understanding this correctly, how do we vet people? Is that what you're kind of asking?
Yeah. So when we say that, hey, these are the leadership skills we want, and we get those more defined, and we say strategic thinking is really important for us. And someone comes and says, yeah, we did this strategic plan and whatever. It really wasn't the superintendent. He had a Cracker Jack that did it, and he's really not very good at it. What would be your process that we could lead into that?
Excellent. The two things that come to mind right away. As you define this for us, okay, let's use school leadership, okay? As you define that, we're going to identify what you think you lead, what that means, whether it's a book, whether it's a specific plan that you use, and we're going to try and put that into that definition. We're going to throw that into the application, and each one of those candidates is going to tell us how he meets those criteria. The other thing that happens is we take those criteria as defined by you, and we have a battery of questions for every reference that we talk to. And it's referenced every one of them. When I do the reference call, I say, I'd like you to comment on this person as far as he or she reflects these criteria. And then what I end up doing is I read the criteria and I read the definition. And then I ask those references. Now, sometimes they can't answer. For example, I called a sheriff one time as a reference. He couldn't tell me about school leadership, okay? But he was a reference. I still called him. But is that kind of the direction? So we take the battery of questions that we have to use from our company, and we have to use the criteria, and they have to write about it, and then we have to ask the references about that.
We do have a personality profile questionnaire that is part of our tools that were given from our company. So yes, we do have a personality profile tool that we do use, especially when people request it.
What's the name of that?
I'm sorry, I can't tell you off the top of my head.
Okay.
I can look it up here, hopefully, and get it to you before we're done. But
And I don't need it before we're done, but if you want to forward that to the PO, that'd be great.
okay, but it is a personality profile tool that is, I think, been proven over time to be useful.
Yeah, hey, Mike, what you mentioned that you think Gilbert's a wonderful job. Why do you say that?
Well, I personally know some of your teachers, and I got a couple of them that graduated from my school. One of them I tried to recruit back, sorry. But, and then also meeting with your leadership and the growth that you have. And then let's talk about your scores, folks. Your activities and your academics are top notch. I mean, and then throw on top of that, and I mean this is next, is location. Who wouldn't want to be? I mean, I didn't know much about Ames when I came to Story City, guys, but who wouldn't want to be next to a university town with the assets of that? So I just think it's one of the best jobs in the state of Iowa, folks. I truly believe that.
Set the bar high, Mike.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to hear why he thought.
Mike, I have one more question for you. I'd like to squeeze in here. One of the things I see advertising, but my question would be for you. I know a Cracker Jack superintendent that I want to make sure that we get her resume in the mix. When we talk to our stakeholders that may know some potential candidates, I want to know, are you guys going to be proactive in soliciting referrals and then reaching out to them of, hey, I know you might not be looking, but we got a great position here in Gilbert, Iowa, and I want to tell you why you're talking up, because I think the best candidates aren't looking for jobs. And so I want to know more than advertising, what you do to search after those folks.
I understand your question completely, and there's two parts in my opinion. Number one, when you hire us, we're your partner. We're going to be your champion. We are going to do exactly what you just said. We're going to champion your district. But secondly, if you know anybody that you want us to recruit hard, you get us the names and we're going to go get it done. Now, if that person doesn't follow through, we can't tell you until that last meeting because it's a personnel thing, in closed session. But
would you say that soliciting built into your case though? Because I don't want it like we're having to bring it to you. I want it to be you're asking group and stakeholders and really making a broad spread for referrals are welcome here, not just go to the website and apply.
No, yes, I would say that you can count on us. The only thing that I will tell you that we will not do, we will not recruit people that we have placed in other districts. Now, they will know about the jobs and they are more than welcome to apply, but we don't think it's.
No, I think that makes perfect sense. So, yeah.
And one other question before we go here. When you said you looked at our salary range where Lindsay's at now, what in your personal opinion of doing this and seeing everything, where do you think we fall right now? Give us something to think about going forward.
Personally, and I only spent probably a couple hours last week, I think you're probably going to be a little bit on the low end.
Okay.
I don't know what you pay for benefits or anything like that, but total, the website for the State Department really lacks for some help.
And it's usually a year behind.
Yeah, I think you're going. No, I saw 2021 data.
Okay.
I think you're going to have to consider a little bit more than what you're paying now.
Okay. And I appreciate the information you put in there about all that. That was very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, we are out of time.
Okay.
Is there anything in the last minute that we'd like to ask real quick?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
You guys are going.
When will you be making your decision?
We hope to do that tonight, but we reserve the right to carry over to our board meeting on Monday night.
Very good. Thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Bye, Trent. Bye, Trent.
He's on already.
Yeah, you just jumped on, I think.
Who's that?
The next group.
Okay.
We'll just wait. I think there's also
Trent
somebody.
Grunmeyer, and then
Are
I
you
think.
guys want any time? Want me to let her know?
I think
I
we
think
just
we're
go.
fine. We can just talk about it.
So who's this guy?
Grunmeyer.
They have somebody here too.
Yep. Trent, unfortunately, his daughter came down, or was exposed, or came down with COVID. So that's going virtual.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh my gosh, I thought we knocked him over.
You can guess which chair is yours.
Yeah.
And if we stay far enough apart, is it okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what we got
Although, why
separated.
don't you take one look at my face and maybe ask me to put it out. That's okay.
So,
I don't know if Trent's on yet or not.
Yeah, he's over there too.
yeah, he's
Oh,
right.
hello, Trent.
So we'll be displaying your documents this way and then.
Actually, Trent is doing
Trent's
the
going to
document.
leave.
What is doing? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, however works best for you guys, but I am prepared to share it here as well once we get started.
Okay,
Perfect.
that works for us. So just before we start, just to give you an idea, looking at probably 25 minutes or so, 25, and then a chance for us to ask questions. So I might just pop up if the time is getting close, just to let you know.
You bet.
What we'll do is, Trent will take the lead since he has the control of the Zoom. I'll jump in and we kind of tag team, and if you have questions along the way.
Okay.
It's pretty darn easy to go along with. And I have to tell you that, I think I was telling Gail, for whatever reason, I went to middle school, met some wonderful people at a basketball game. Wandered around there, the facilities are great. They sent me over here, I've wandered around, facilities are great.
You should try our high school.
Yeah. Next time.
All right.
I truly am being serious. I have more fun when I just go visit school. So, anyway, sorry, Trent.
No, I just want the board to understand. You see why I usually need to be with him? Well, good to see you guys tonight. Can you guys hear okay? I'm assuming with the chuckles, you're all right. I apologize that I'm not with you tonight. I reassure you I'd rather be there in person. Send Kevin there because we think it's important to be there in person. But one of my daughters was a positive COVID case, and just out of respect and health to everybody, I knew it was best to stay away and present like this. So thanks for accommodating me, and please know it's important for us to be there, and that's why Kevin is still there for you tonight. We'll go back and forth in our presentation. We'll keep it brief. We really want to highlight maybe some things that are unique to what we can offer you in the superintendent search process. Kevin handed out a folder already, and if I don't mention this now, I'll probably breeze over it. So on the left side in that packet is our presentation that we'll share with you tonight. If there's any notes that you want to take or you want to see the presentation slides after we share those with you tonight. And on the right is just some general information, part of what was in our proposal initially, and just some other information about our search process. So with that being said, just to put a name with the face, Trent Grunmeyer here, started Grunmeyer Leader Services, actually search 6 years ago, and continue to grow. And we feel like we're serving schools very well. If you've called any references, our goal is certainly to hire great people to transform education, but we want to reference from every board that we serve. And so we're certainly open to you reaching out to folks that we've worked with. My other role, I just want to mention right up front, is advising the superintendent program at Drake University that keeps me very current in trends in education and conferences where I network and school law topics and things like that. So really enjoy the search work and the leadership at Drake advising the program. And so I'll pause for a minute so you can get some background on Dr. Feeney there.
Mine's a lot more exciting than him because I've been around longer. There you go. I retired a little over 2 years ago, being superintendent at Interstate 35 south of West Des Moines. Prior to that, I served there 4 years, and prior to that, I was superintendent of schools at East Sac County out in central Iowa, basically western central Iowa. I was there for 4 years and really thought we would retire there. And ended up that we had our first grandchild, and we were living in Lakeview, and our first grandchild was going to be in Centerville. And I did the MapQuest thing, and that's 4 hours, and said, that's not going to work. And then truthfully, I discovered that our grandson was born deaf, and we wanted to be part of that young man's life. And jumping ahead, he had cochlear implant surgery. He is 100% doing great. What a kid. And they're now in Indianola. So it's the move there. So anyway, that's how we got down here. Prior to being superintendent, I was college professor in the education department at Woodward College, served in Waverly, and then served as high school principal at Waverly Shell Rock for 6 years. 6 years as secondary principal at Denver, Iowa, just north of Waterloo, and then taught there for 10 years prior to that. So if you did the math, that adds up to, I'm just old. I love doing this work. It's my part-time gig. There's no doubt about it. But I'm totally retired doing consulting stuff. But this is it, and this is being a grandpa. And so I can't tell you how blessed I am as an individual, and how thrilled actually that I am to be able to look you in the face tonight. We would love to earn your business.
And so thanks, Kevin. My presentation should be on the screen. Will somebody give me a thumbs up just to make sure the technology is good? Thank you for that. Again, I'm going to spend a little bit more time. Kevin and I will go back and forth highlighting, we know you're hearing from multiple firms tonight. We certainly respect your position to do what's best for the district, but there's a lot of things that are going to be similar that the different firms maybe share. but there's going to be some real uniqueness to what they can offer and who you connect with as well. So I'm going to try to spend a little bit more time on the things that might be unique that we can offer to your superintendent search. Sometimes we get questions about our stats, and so these are some stats that I can share with you right up front about the work that we've done. 10% out of state candidates the last 6 years, 31% female candidates that we're proud of. 10% our biggest compliment, districts that have rehired us for multiple positions. The good news is that's not superintendent rehires. That's a superintendent, and then they use us again for a principal or an SBO or an AD. But it's a nice compliment. 86 successful superintendent, principal, SBO, and other director positions to date. And we're also very proud. 97% of the superintendents are still employed. We've really only lost 2 in the last 6 years. And that really beats the national average of 4 years. So we're pleased about that, and pleased that our process leads to somebody who's a great fit, not just for the district, but also the community. I won't belabor this because you saw it in our presentation, but 2 things that I think are very unique to what we offer, and part of the reason we got in this business is, number one, we just acknowledge right up front that we work for you. We're not going to tell you that we know the Gilbert community or the school district better than you, because we don't, and we couldn't study enough to know that. But what the beautiful thing about a partnership and working for a school board is that we acknowledge that, and we know the process and the candidates well. So when we put that stuff together, that's what's going to lead to a successful search. So we acknowledge that. I'm going to jump down to the screening tools. I think you're going to see some of the screening tools that we can offer, that objective data to you. There, I say confidently, there is no other firm that is going to be able to give you as much objective data about the candidates as we can. And that's one of the reasons we got in this business. And then last but not least, I want you to know that whoever you hire in the end, we put our name behind as well. And we do a lot to help make sure they're successful. That's a partnership with ISFIS that's helping them with first year goals and an entry plan to get off to a great start. So I just wanted to highlight those things that may be unique and are certainly staples of the business that we can provide. So then we'll just go through a process here that we would outline. I don't want to skirt over anything too quickly, but again, I do want to highlight some of the uniqueness of what we offer. And the first is in the planning stage there on the left. That can start as soon as you hire a firm, or if we earn your business, that's would be us in another meeting. And that would be things like identifying the timeline, which you saw in the proposal, identifying a salary and benefits package in general, so that we can actively recruit and answer some of those questions for candidates. That is getting a stakeholder survey out to your district and community and getting as much feedback as possible, putting a report together for you as the board to synthesize that data from your community and your district and what they are looking for, with the understanding that you as a board get to decide the direction and those qualifications that you're prioritizing in a new superintendent. So that is all part of the initial planning steps that starts as soon as we potentially earn your business. And the other thing I would note is, even if the job isn't posted yet, what we do is get it out on social media and on our website, so that candidates that are looking know that more information about the job is coming as we're planning behind the scenes, but that we have the search and to start talking to your family, updating your materials, because it will be posted soon. So that's kind of, go ahead.
Just to jump in a little bit, the stakeholder survey that we talked about, and some places they do meetings, face-to-face meetings with people, and that's certainly an option as well. And there's nothing wrong with that. But with the stakeholder survey, you actually push it out through your school management system, whatever it is, through your social media, through your local everything, and you'll get 300 to 400 responses, especially in places as positive and as growing as what Gilbert is. You'll get a lot of feedback with that tool. And then what we do, when he talks about synthesizing all of that data, there's a litany of things that we've developed primarily, but we've all massaged it, that go into that survey, and they will be asked to pick, and he'll show it a little bit later, but just to start cementing in your head, one of the things that I'm so excited about with the work that we do, is that data is all presented to you, and then you're going to frame it. We'll help you massage that, and you'll come up with 6, 7, 8 different things that really hone in on what you want in your next superintendent, based off all this feedback from all of these different groups that you've got. Ultimately, it's the board's decision. But why that is so critical is then all the way through, when we talk about objective data, and again, Trent will show this as we go, we use those 6, 7, 8 desired characteristics to screen. We'll ask you to do that when the interview time comes, rate these candidates on these. It's what ties the whole thing together. It's critically important, and it's one of the things that I love about our process. I get a little wired, I'll shut up.
No, that pulls it together nicely. That's going to guide it. And that's us kind of being the guide by the side, saying, this is what you prioritize before you saw those candidates. And then you'll see when we rate candidates for you and help you set questions, a lot of times it's back to those desired things that you set when we started the process, with lots of feedback from your community and district. So thanks, Kevin. The next step that we would highlight here is recruiting. And again, you're going to see some uniqueness to this and also some similarities. Teach Iowa is the go-to in Iowa. Other firms might suggest they go to superintendent programs. We have great relationships with people at different universities. We're going to leverage for a Gilbert position some national posting boards like K-12 JobSpot, Indeed, Teachers. The one that is probably going to get you the best leads is the ASA Job Bulletin. And our search firm website and prior pools, we get about 1,500 hits a week during the hiring season. So people are watching the website and social media. But, you know, I'd also mention that the people that aren't looking, you know, it's Kevin or I making a personal phone call or dropping an email to somebody and saying, hey, I know you're not looking, but we got a great opportunity up in Gilbert, and here's why we think you're a good fit. So that's how we would recruit, primarily the outlets we'd use to recruit candidates for you. And Kevin, anything else to add on this?
No, you're gonna get some wonderful candidates. This is a very attractive position. And if I was a lot younger than I am, this is one I would be juiced for. You've got so many good things going. And so, yeah, it's gonna be good.
I won't, you know, Kevin and I, we have a nice partnership with ISFIS, Larry Siegel and Margaret Buckton. And one of the things what we're able to leverage is some of your financial tools. And so, you know, if you hire us and put your trust in us to work this search, you know, we're going to sell the district. And so we've already taken a look at your finances, your enrollment, open enrollment, your enrollment of your certified students is trending up. Your solvency ratio is good. There's nothing on here that concerns me. And I just share that to let you know that Kevin and I may be the face of the search, but you have Margaret and Larry and others that are really working behind the scenes to understand the district and recruit for you as well. And as Kevin said, we're very confident that your district will be attractive in location and finances and lots of other things to candidates. You'll have a great pool.
I can vouch for the facilities and some.
I kind of like that G for Gilbert myself, with the last name of Grunmeyer and a search firm with GLS.
Good point.
Yeah.
That's off money.
There you go.
Yeah. Step 3 here is what we'd walk you through in screening. And to synthesize this a little bit and really tell you how this looks is each Monday during the job posting. So if it's posted for 5 weeks, which is normally what we'd recommend, every Monday morning, as board members, you would get to see the application materials for any candidate that's that's submitted formally within that week. And so normally you're going to get 5, 6, 8 candidates this week, and then next week another 5, 6, and then usually the last week you're going to get 10 or 12 that hit submit. But you're going to see every candidate that applies. Behind the scenes, Kevin and I are doing background checks, reference calls, licensure checks. And so when we come and present then in person the candidates in closed session per their request, we're going to bring you kind of the Paul Harvey, everything else that we found out good or bad about those candidates. But you've already seen their materials, you know, each week as they applied. So that's the closed session we call pre-screening review with you as a board. Then the next.
Let me jump in if I may. She quit interrupting the boss, I guess, but
You're good.
one of the things that and again, I can speak to a couple of processes because as a candidate, having been hired in 2 different processes, 2 different schools as a superintendent. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is that you will know every candidate that applies. It's not that we're playing God and only going to bring you 10 that we think are the best. We certainly are going to rate them. We're going to give you insight, and there's a wide range of qualifications, but it's that we just believe strongly that if a person takes the effort and the time to present their materials for your consideration, then you should see those. We're not going to play God with those. You will see all of them. Don't get me wrong. We're gonna give you some assistance on which ones rise, but that's something that's different.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Interrupt any time here. So pre-screening review is normally closed session. We review all the candidates, and I'll show you in a minute how we rate them initially for you. And then the next would be where you as a board pick 8 of those candidates or less, depending on kind of where that natural cutoff is, for initial, we call screening interviews. Now that's where we spend about a half hour with each candidate. We help you script the questions. We set them up via Zoom, and you will know, in 5-10 minutes, you will know if this is a candidate you're excited about or a candidate that you're disappointed in after you saw their materials on paper. So that's the next phase that gets a little more personal. And then the final phase is where the board identifies the top 3 candidates normally to bring back as finalists. So that's a screening or an overview of kind of the screening process where we go from 30 plus candidates, in your case, I believe, down to 3 finalists, and how we objectively work with you to personalize and get to know them better through that process. Again, the other bullets here that behind the scenes, we're making sure they're serious about Gilbert, and we're helping you script questions and updates that you can share with the district and community along the way.
I should say too, and this will come out, and I know we're going to run short on time, so we'll keep it moving, but the confidential nature of this process at the beginning is critically important, and I'm speaking as a candidate now. I may be in a position that I'm not looking for a job, but I hear Gilbert's open, and somebody calls me, Trent calls me, and they go, oh, wow, that has so many things. I don't want to give my home district, my home board, everybody wired. So it needs to be, I would require when I end the application that it remains anonymous, until the finalists. Then I heard no holds barred. But even when you get those weekly things from us on Monday morning, that should not be a discussion topic. I mean, between yourself, and that's one thing, but that's still private information. And if the board, if the community ever gets at you, like, what are you hiding? Lean on us is that, and the truth, straightforward truth, is you will lose candidates, good candidates, if it's not kept confidential, plain and simple. And that the consultants have advised you strongly to do that. Lean on us, we don't live here.
An initial Zoom, how many of those 30 candidates do we get involved in on the initial Zoom?
Usually it's up to 8.
Okay.
And sometimes 6, sometimes 5.
Let's hope it wasn't 30.
No, and try to jump in, but almost always, if you have 30 candidates, there's going to be a natural split in which way we do it. It will jump out at you almost always.
Good.
And that's why we don't say, it has to be 5 or it has to be 8. We know that more than 8 is too much and it's hard to whittle down, because we've done 8 and 9, and that gets to be a heck of a night. But, if there's a natural cutoff between numbers, 8 and 6, then that's maybe where you stop. But it's who you're excited about getting to know more personally. So now what's on your screen is when we come and present in that initial closed session meeting. And by the way, we do, for the board secretary there, Gail, we do ask the candidates as part of the application process if they want their materials maintained confidentially, and when they meet with the board, if they want open or closed session. So we also give you an Excel document with their request to keep things legal. But this in front of you is a document or an example of when we come and present candidates to you in closed session, we present them kind of top down. So if you notice, there was 9 desired qualifications up in red there for this district. And Kevin and I—
10 points for each one is how we rate it. That's how we got to 90.
Okay.
Yeah. So 90 was the top. So as we're synthesizing candidates for you, going back to those desired qualifications that you set up front, we're trying to be objective in this list to share with the board, hey, here's how we prioritized your candidates based on what you said you wanted. And we give you an overview or a page like this on each candidate, kind of top down. So this candidate, I think, was the top candidate for, and this is confidential, but this candidate scored 78, which was their top candidate. So you can see name, current district, current salary, and our rating. And you can see this candidate scored higher than that, but lost 8 points because it was under a separation agreement and, you know, was not familiar with Iowa finance. So you can see why we deducted some points from them.
Great options, the deductions. Yep.
Right. So, and again, we'll talk in more detail about it, but you're going to have a detailed page like this that has a ton of information about each candidate that we've vetted above and beyond the application materials you saw on Monday. And then you as the board in yellow there, you decide collectively, does the majority want to move this person forward? Do you not? And we keep moving, or is it a maybe and we often come back and have discussions around the maybe that when we decide who to screen next. So I just want you to see how this page looks and how we bring you more information and try to synthesize a lot of data, references, everything to guide and help prioritize candidates.
I have a question, if you don't mind. When you mentioned confidentiality and you every week, every Monday, the applications come out and they're emailed to the individual board members, how do you keep that from not advancing to another email?
Yeah, so we try to work through one person. Normally that would probably be Gail.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. Okay. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I learned about that. Okay.
That's a great question. We work through one person and there's some trust involved. But again, if the candidates want things kept confidential, we just implore you not to do your own searching until it's public, and then do all the digging you want, but you don't want to lose great candidates because of that.
Right. Yeah.
And then do we have secure email, Gil, or would we just use board?
Probably drop. Like,
Or Dropbox?
probably flow it to the Dropbox and you guys can go in there.
We have secure email.
Yes.
Yeah, you want to do it whatever way you most secure.
Some districts will have the board president get it as well as the board secretary. It's whatever you want, but usually one person is the best.
Okay.
What we don't want is to email the entire board and then get into a discussion, violate.
Yeah.
What you see in the screen now is just a picture, so you get an idea what screening interviews might look like with the board, where, again, we're facilitating those interviews and setting up the tech and we've already helped you script the questions. And then on the back side of the questions, where we have those desired qualifications lists, and then we ask each individual board member to rate the candidates back to those initial qualifications. And then that's where we start the discussion that night once the interviews are over. So that's our initial screening process, 30 minutes with each of those 8 or less candidates.
And we really advocate to do them in one evening, so you're comparing apples to apples, not coming back 2 days later.
Yeah. And Kevin, you can elaborate on this if you want, but this initial screening document here, I just want to highlight that in parentheses there, this is where we help you script the right questions. So this board, one of their priorities here in parentheses was build school and community relations. So then we help them script the question, how would you get to know the district? How would you get to know our district and important community leaders or something? So you can see in parentheses there, that's our note to say we're asking this question to get at one of those initial qualifications we're looking for.
And we do all that legwork. We have a battery of questions in the various areas that we'll pull. You get final say on them. They're your questions. And if they're not right, we hone in on them, whatever, but we do that legwork for you.
So one of the things that we recommend that Kevin thought I was goofy as a pet coon on, but has really worked well if he's honest, and
that is absolutely true. I thought he was nuts.
Is mixed interview teams for the formal interviews. When we bring back 3 finalists, mixed interview teams. So Kevin, you want to elaborate on that since you're there?
And the way I was always introduced, I would go to this group that was the teacher group, and then I go to the support staff, and then the parent group, and then do a rah-rah and all of that stuff in both of my other interviews, which is great. I love people and all of that. But I'm smart. This will sound arrogant, but I'm smart enough to tailor an answer to what somebody wants to hear. The mixed interviews just leave you standing naked that you're going to get the truth, because there's a student here, and then there might be an admitted principal, there's going to be a community person, there's going to be a teacher, and a different teacher, and up to 15, 25, whatever, and we can do a much larger group if we do those Zoom. If they're face-to-face, you're going to have 15 to 20 people on that mixed interview team. And I wish, one of my regrets in 39 years in business is that we didn't use these for that very reason. In interviewing all positions, I would.
Yeah, and again, there's lots of benefits that we just feel like they're more credible interviews. We feel like a mixed team doesn't leave all thinking the teachers or administrators, the board better go with this person because they have to consider other perspectives. And we can get a lot of people involved in a more efficient process. So again, if we earn your business, we'll show you lots of schedules that work. But I wanted to mention mixed interview teams is something that we offer that's unique. Now, after the formal interviews, we also use some technology. We ask folks to bring a device, and we put together a customized survey. This is just a screenshot of what yours looks like. I started putting it together a little bit to give you an idea what it would look like. But up top there electronically, we normally send this out a couple days in advance to your interview teams. And we have all the finalists' application materials at that blue hyperlink there, so they can electronically go in and review the candidates' materials. And then in the drop down would be the names of your 3 finalists. So when they're done with the formal interview, they would pick one of those finalists that they just interviewed, and on their device, they would go in here and go back to those same 6 or 8 desired qualifications that you prioritized as a board. So in this case was recruits, hires, and develops a strong administrative team. And based on the questions that we asked, how does the teacher, how does the administrator, how does the community person, student feel like they did with that particular area based on the questions, and they rate the candidates. And then there's some narratives at the end. What are the candidates' strengths do you want the board to know? What are the candidates' weaknesses or concerns? And what else do you want the board to know? And we synthesize all that feedback in the formal interviews from each candidate and everybody involved on a 1-page document that normally looks something like this. You can see in the bottom right, nobody knows this, by the way. None of the formal interview teams see this data, only the board. But sometimes it's beautiful because they don't know it, but they've all rated somebody higher in all the different groups with all the different questions, and the board agrees. And in an hour and a half, 2 hours after the formal interview day, we make an offer because it's just that clear. And other times it's not quite as clear, and the narrative feedback, strengths, concerns come out, and you have to negotiate that a little bit. But I would say 60% of the time, give or take, the numbers are so clear and the board agrees that we have an offer out an hour and a half, 2 hours at the end of a formal interview day, because all this feedback is synthesized.
And to clarify just a touch, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, with the mixed interview teams, they are mixed, but you will get feedback, is what he's saying, from each of the individual groups. You'll know what the sports staff representatives have told you. You'll have all of that.
Do you go back and rank it that way? You go back and
that's if you look down on the right, there's a bar graph.
Yeah, I can't see it.
Well, what it is the students, it'll be
I
like
see it
the
right
different candidates. Yeah. And so you will have a sense of what each of the groups.
Yes.
And no one else sees that, obviously. That's critical. It's your decision. You're the hiring board.
But it's a good way to collect a lot of feedback and synthesize it in a way that you can use it.
In a consistent. Yeah,
Yes,
right.
in a very
Yes,
consistent
exactly.
way.
And we don't,
It's a 15-minute thing. I just want to let you know, keep going, but.
Okay.
okay, we'll hurry it up. Just so you know as well, we don't have a discussion with those mixed interview teams. We do facilitate a little bit at the end, but we ask them to submit all their feedback before we have a discussion as a group. That's so everybody has a voice and isn't, slanted any which direction about a candidate based on other feedback. We'll still take notes and bring you that feedback, but you pick the formal interview teams, and we want everybody to have the same voice. So we get down to the hiring process here. There's consideration from all the feedbacks. I'm going to show you a document in a minute about negotiations. You'll have to do the formal background check, but there won't be any surprises. And then we help put together the announcements and things like that as well. One thing that's been a game changer for us is this pre-negotiations questionnaire. When you get down to finalists, and we've told them throughout the process as they became candidates for screening, here's the salary range, here's their benefits package. When they're now a finalist, we send them a document that is this pre-negotiations questionnaire. And we say, if you're the chosen candidate, what salary and benefits will you need to accept the offer? And you can see here that they'll prioritize and say salary's most important and it's 150,000, or maybe they'll say it's 180 and that wasn't in the range. And we simply call them and say, hey, that's not going to work. Why did you put this down? But we have that conversation ahead of time so that we're very confident when you decide on your candidate and what you want to offer them, that we're not going to monkey around, back and forth 14 times to get to a salary and benefits package that's conducive. We're going to know what they want and need to make the move if it's reasonable. And we're going to share that with you once you land on your candidate. Before that, we won't share it. And that's how I get the candidates to fill this out honestly. But once you land on your candidate, then we'll start to share the information from this document. The last 2 years.
How you can roll out and put in another candidate so that you would have, 3 good, strong candidates. That's the process.
Yep. And I just want you to know, again, not boasting on this, but very confident. This has been a game changer for us. In the last 2 years, we have not lost any hire that the board wanted. And I attribute a lot of it to just knowing what they need up front and having the conversations before an offer goes out. Oftentimes, and I'm not trying to jinx you, but oftentimes it's an initial offer. It's solid. It's within reason from what they want. And there's no going back and forth. Or if it's something very minimal.
We want people on the same page.
Yeah. Well, and that's good to know too, because if they are playing games, well, we got the wrong candidate. Let's start over.
That'll jump up. Yeah. Fred, can I jump in before you go too far down the line? Just two things. One thing that is unique to what we do, because we're the only ones that have access to it. Is that a Strength Finders?
Yeah.
Over there? Great program. Very cool.
John brings it everywhere with him.
What's
He just
that?
brings it everywhere with him.
Yeah, because I'm like, I got to beef up on this. I'm not getting it done.
You're gonna love what I'm about to say if you like Strength Finders. Because we did that in all the schools. We do the Advanced Insights, which is out of West Des Moines, and I got into that at Interstate 35, the company president, and board president, and learned about it. And it's, a lot of people have heard of the desk. That's been around for years. That's just a piece of it, and you'll see the results. And then the second assessment is actually dealing with values. What is it? Why do the people do what they do? What's important? And then the third part is attributes index, which is really the order that you bring process. And this sounds cackermane, but I will stake my livelihood, life, reputation, everything on how well this has worked. We used it, and it's EEOC. I never get that right. Is that right? Compliant. It can be used for hiring anyone. It's not anything illegal. One of the downsides of Strength is it's not. The Gallup never got to that point, although it certainly could be if they did the work. But this thing was is we didn't hire anybody over to 35. That's the first time using this tool. Not that we used it as a deciding factor, but we have better insight on these people than anything that an interview or anything else could be. It's uncanny the power of this tool.
Kevin, what was the name of the one that you guys use? And do you use it as a part of your?
We do.
And what was the name of it?
Advanced Insights. Yeah, or Intermetrics is another. And we'll get into, if we're in your business, we'll get into more.
When do you engage that? I mean, if you've got 30 initially, I mean, at what point?
They are asked to fill out and do this. There's 3 different profiles, takes about 30 minutes online to do. And everybody when they apply does that.
Okay.
So we don't pull it up historically until we get down to the finalists. And then we will go through their profiles with you in the debriefing in detail. And what it will do is it will give you great insight on whether somebody was blowing smoke up your, during the course of the day or process, or what your gut tells you is going to be cement.
Can we get it on the final 8 or 6 so that we can be like, use it to pick our final 3 selections?
Absolutely can.
Okay.
It's an amazing tool. There is no laying of hands in this process that guarantees that things are going to be perfect. But this is a game changer for my mind. And I'll shut up now, but I'm a believer, as you can tell.
Just a quick note, 10 minutes. And I want to make sure you're able to get through this. There's some more good information.
Yes, thank you.
Asking questions as we go.
Yeah.
And just one other thing about this, we actually go through, you'll get the report from whoever you hire, the full report at 72 pages, there's summaries. but we also go through this with your new hire. So they understand their own profile. And that's really the science and research behind this is know thyself and natural strengths and stay true to them. So we do take time in the ISVIS days to go through this with them as well. So as we tie things up here and get down to the preparation stage, again, we take a lot of pride in supporting the folks that we've hired. I believe we're the only firm that puts out the folks that we hire and put our name behind them. They're on the website. We're proud of the people we've hired. We help them with an entry plan, first year goals, and they do get a full day with Margaret and Larry at ISVIS going through all your finances and student achievement data. We go through the profile that you just saw as well this day. And so they're very well prepared for first day on the contract and for their first 90 days on the job and beyond as we stay in touch with them. Last but not least, I think one of the unique things is I'm confident we're not probably your lowest bid, and I'm not always proud of that, but we bid things differently. And so I want you to know our costs are a top cost. If we had something come up where there was extra trips to the district or marketing or anything else that might be extra costs, we never charge $1 more than the proposal, which is 7% of the outgoing superintendent, 4 trips to the district. That's where that number comes from. But we do a top cost and stay under that and don't put things on top of that. So I just want to acknowledge that's where that number comes from. And again, we never charge a district more than that max cost, regardless of the work and the cost that it takes to get you the right person. So I better stop there. There is our guarantee for a year. I just really feel strongly that we could do a great job recruiting and marketing and running a process that's objective and thorough to get you the right person. Kevin and I work well together. We enjoy the process. And if we earn your business, we would love to come and meet with you in person and get the ball rolling. And with that, unless you have anything else to add, Kevin, we better give some time for questions.
So would you two be the folks we work with? And
Yeah.
how many others are you working with at the same time? What's your workload? I know you mentioned part-time, but would it be just us?
Districts,
Other searches.
How many other searches are you working at the same time? Are you primarily
That's a good
focused on
question,
that?
Brent.
Yeah, nobody will never take on more than 3 or 4, but we have a team of 6. And so, Kevin might be only working on 1 or 2. I'm usually working on a few more than that, but we also have a team of consultants that are working on different ones. So
You're gonna get a lot of undivided attention if that's the question.
But if we hire you, you are the 2
We
people
would
that will work.
Yes, unless you don't like.
So what does that mean when you say you have a team of consultants? Define that, what that means. Are they,
I'll just run through a couple. On Trent can too. Roger Wilcox is a former elementary principal. And he's a consultant that will work on some searches. And then Terry brings a strong background in human resources. And we'll jump in and if there's those types of questions. Jim is a former superintendent, former AEA, kind of a jack of all trades and good at all of it. Great mediation type person. So we'll bring those. It's a team. You have 2 people, which would be Trent and myself and Trent. But we have access to them, and if there's a need, then we bring other people along. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
so that's your team.
Yes.
You talked about the stakeholder survey, which you would do online and get many responses. Then you talked towards the end about mixed interviews bringing, but how do you engage our other stakeholders outside of this room? Administration, staff, teachers, community. I mean, are those the 2 touch points, or are there any others?
yeah, that's a great question. So they need to be included. They're working and reporting directly to the superintendent in most cases. So you as a board, and I'll pull up here, we don't have time to go into this, but we have lots of different schedules that we could share with you if we earn your business and come and meet. But you'll see in some of these schedules, those administrators and directors are part of the mixed interview teams. And in others, they have their own interview time with the finalists. Normally, they're not part of the screening process. Normally, the board just does that. But if you wanted to invite them in the screening process, you certainly could as well. We've had boards want to do that. But you can see in some of these schedules, sometimes they're in with the mixed interview teams. And again, we pull their feedback out separate so you can see what they reported. And sometimes they're included, they have their own interview teams and interview questions in the formal steps as well.
You know, the other option would be, is if you, and I don't know enough about your district yet, but if there's a strong desire to have a face-to-face with the building principals and the directors, maybe some night before we come meet with you, we could have an hour session and take notes. If that's something that the board wants, we work for you. But a lot of it is through the survey, and it's so inclusive. But we can do other things as well that meet your needs.
Yeah, and so just final comment is, I think alignment with our stakeholders is important. So that's the reason for the question.
No, it is.
With the COVID environment we're in today, how much is that going to affect this process? I mean, have you gone through it already? Is it that positive, negative? It's just curious how that looks now in today's world.
Well, I'll share my 2 cents and then Trent can, correct me. I like some of the changes that it's forced for our process truthfully. For one, I remember the mixed interview teams, I told you, if you do it face to face, you got to have large enough areas, and you've got plenty of gyms and all everything in your district. I've seen several of them. And then you can spread them out, but you'll usually have about 20 people on that. And in the COVID environment, multiple districts at the end of the season last year, one of the things that's available is that we'll do that interview by Zoom, and they can be wherever they want. You can have 100 people in that mixed interview. Well, you could, on the mixed interview team where they see and interact, and we still do the same process, getting questions. They get input onto the questions, and it's the same process. You actually broaden it because of the COVID environment. That's the thought. Trent?
Yeah, we hired 5 superintendents last year and then some principals and others during COVID. So to answer your question directly, whoever asked that, I'm confident in telling you we can have just as many people involved and run a thorough process despite, if you will, COVID. With that being said, we would really defer to you if you want to use the technology for some of those interview groups, but the board themselves in every formal interview process we've done, we've spaced the board out and met with the finalists and had interviews with the finalists. We think even if, the rest of the folks Zoom interview and we can keep them engaged that way and get their feedback, which we do, so be it. But we really think it's important the board spaces out and meets the candidates in the formal interviews in person. So that's how we did the board interviews. The others were between in person, if you can space them out, or Zoom interviews.
All right. Thanks.
Can I go back and thought of something else from your very astute question? Is that one of the things that we help with is after we get the stakeholder survey, for instance, and the board has decided what those things are, we'll release that to the public. We will help you do press releases so that people know where you're at in the process. And that helps a bunch as you bring people along, like good communication, and we assist in that. Okay.
Thank you.
Fun. What's the next one?
I do have one, and don't want to end on a.
Yeah, we just have about 2 minutes or 3 minutes left. So is it a zinger or is it like
I'll go for it.
I want to
might
hear
be.
it. I want to hear
Go
it.
for it.
Carroll, Iowa is one of your references. We had a chance to talk to Jen Munson, and that's actually one where you had to rehire.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit of the learnings from that and why that won't happen here.
That's 100% accurate. It pains me to even talk about it again, but I want you to know, and I hope you asked Jen too, we did that search again over for free. And I will tell you that's a candidate that had references that were as good as any. And I still believe, had a lot of strengths to offer that district without saying anything that I can't say in a public meeting. Ran into ethical issues in the district in his first year that he was never going to be able to overcome. And I'm not passing the blame, but I'm just telling you that I don't think there was any way, when we're even honest and digging in deep, that we could have forecasted the ethical issues that the gentleman had. I'm not trying to pass the buck. I'm being as honest as I can, but we didn't get it right, and we missed ethical things somehow, some way. That
We went
again,
back afterwards and looked, and there wasn't anything that was that we could ever find that we're gonna.
So you weren't going to know
That
regardless.
he
Yeah.
voted, and it's like, oh crap.
Yeah. So to your credit, Jen was very favorable because, as you said, you came back and did a second one, and they seemed very pleased. But I'm just curious if there was learnings from that first one.
We're as diligent as humanly possible, and now, and I just don't know what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was on that search too, with Trent, and just made us both sick.
Yeah.
But
Jason,
they're in a better place now.
Yeah.
We need to be done.
Hey, yes, thank you very much for your presentation.
Hey, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
and-
Yes, thank you.
You didn't make it any easier, I'm gonna tell you that.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's good. I agree with that.
The high school is the one with Gilbert.
Yeah, you got, actually got two more. You got the elementary school
high school.
and then a nice high school.
Invite us back and sort of send us direction. I will find.
I'll bring a hoverboard, you know that nice.
Yeah.
Cool, very cool. Can we have a couple minutes?
I think maybe very quickly.
Okay.
Is that-
Sure.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Trent.
Well,
Thank you very
then,
much.
thanks, guys.
Thanks again, guys. Appreciate the opportunity very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks,
Thank you
Kevin.
very
Safe
much.
travels.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Using the restroom?
Yeah.
I gotta use it. too, so.
Okay, there's two. There's
You can use the girls. It's okay.
You could use the
Is there- I thought it was on
Like
here.
dance.
You just
It's just.
don't leave a mess.
Yeah.
We'll never be able to use it.
Don't try, yeah. Don't ruin it.
I guess we can tell, Ray and
Yeah.
Associates. that
I
it's
have
taking
Molly
pretty-
and Kevin on right now.
Molly, so, can they hear us?
Yep.
Molly and Kevin, this is Deb. We're just taking a quick break real fast, so just, if you could maybe give us just a couple minutes, we'll get.
Absolutely. No, you're receiving me. My husband's putting the little guy to bed tonight, so I'm having a good old time.
This will probably go
Take
to
a
about
look.
10:30. Keep this thing open for as long as you need to.
Right, right. Where are you located, Molly?
I'm outside of Cedar Rapids. I'm in a tiny little town that I swear nobody's ever heard of. It's called Troy Mills, Iowa.
Okay, I have that.
We're between Cedar Point and Coggan. We're the North Lynn Community School District is where my kids go. But I'm originally from Cedar Rapids. I raised there and product of their school system, and I went to Iowa State, so I'm all over the state.
That's so.
Yeah, there you go. I can. Brownie point. And Kevin, where are you located?
I am in West Branch, Iowa right now. I was
Okay.
a superintendent there for 7 years, and my family's still there. My daughter is a senior at West Branch High School, and my son is right in your neighborhood. He's at Iowa State as a sophomore.
Okay.
I figured you'd be a hot guy, your neck of the woods.
Well, I've tried to get the right colors now, I guess. I gotta correct my wardrobe.
Good.
It's great to be with you guys.
What's your son
Yeah.
studying?
Check on it.
He's had a great experience there, really wonderful business and entrepreneur. And he's got his own little side business going on. I'll tell you this, it's just been amazing. He's given almost like Shark Tank pitches to their president of the university, and everyone's been there. And he's actually secured about $20,000 of startup funds for his business. We've just been overwhelmed as a family, the support, really neat.
Yeah.
Does he work with that Judy Isles? Is that who he works with?
I know that name, he's connected. Yes, I think I know that name and several up there that have just been so good to him and all those students, to give them the opportunity to kind of an incubator model for their business.
Yeah. No, that's good stuff.
What's his business?
Well, okay, are you ready for this? The guy has been an outdoor kid his whole life. He one day told me when he was about 8 years old that he was going to invent a fishing lure. Well, lo and behold, he has a patent pending on a fishing lure. And it's amazing. He actually has a company in Alabama produced about 10,000 of these lures for him. And so he's really just about ready to kick it off. And it's just, I think mom and dad are going to be loading lures into baggage here coming up here pretty soon. It's going to be interesting to see.
I think I met with your son.
Are you serious? Was it John?
Yeah, I did a one-on-one with a bunch of those students. I remember the kid that had the lures, and I told a book to. It was what guy's name at Okoboji? He had that.
Yes.
Bedell.
Yeah, one that. Yeah, I showed him the book and told him to read it.
Oh, that is awesome. Yes, he has loved it. He was supposed to have an internship with them, but you guys know this, preaching the choir, the COVID situation. stop that internship with them. And so he did connect a little bit there with the company. And I think he's going to come up later on this spring, maybe to go visit if it's possible. But absolutely. Thank you very much. That's been a great connection for him.
I don't forget a fishing lure, so.
Well, he doesn't either. So thank you. I always thought it was a little crazy, but boy, he's pretty serious about it.
I think Jason's got, I think we can get
I
started.
think we're good.
Yeah, so just a little bit of background. We're saving about 45 minutes total for each of these, and we'd like to save maybe 10 to 15 minutes for questions at the end. So just keep that in mind. Maybe I'll try to raise my hand when we're getting close to that time. But
Sure.
Just take it away. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, I'm going to start off. My name is Molly Swartzoff. I'm the Senior Vice President with Rain Associates. I'm out of the corporate office in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and I've been with them for a little over 6.5 years. I'm joined by Kevin Hatfield, who I think a couple of you know. And what we're going to try to do is we've got some materials, we've got some PowerPoint presentations that we're going to go through fairly quickly because ultimately every search firm you talk to, we're going to be selling you the same product, very similar. So what we really like to do is try to get in a dialogue back and forth so that we can you can get to know us, we can get to know you, and really try to get past the cookie cutter presentations that we're all putting up on the screen for you, and really get to know you. You guys get to know us as your team, and hopefully you feel comfortable enough to move forward with us and let us help you find your next superintendent. And so,
Yeah.
Kevin,
Yeah, my name's Kevin, again, Kevin Hatfield. Thank you for this opportunity to be with you guys. And I thank Molly as well. I'm one of the associates that they turn to from time to time for their assistance. And, I can tell you first, before I even start, I am so appreciative of board members. I'm not just saying this as a sales thing. I want you to know I spent 7 years here and I was really blessed to have great board members with diverse opinions and everything, but it was so great. And I'm so appreciative of your service, all of our board members in Iowa, especially. As Molly said, I was a superintendent for 7 years, a little background. I was a principal in the Bettendorf schools for 10 years. And then I was a teacher, which I loved. The most part of my life was I was teaching for 15 years and coaching. And so I have this background and great respect for our public schools. I have a lot of knowledge about Gilbert, the Gilbert Community School District, just because of my work as a superintendent, especially. And I was at Grantwood AEA for a year. And so I had certain connections, but so that's my background. I mean, above that, I'm a father. My wife works at the University of Iowa Hospitals, an anesthesiology department, specialized services there. And my daughter, as we mentioned, my daughter is graduating. I was going to just wait as a superintendent to wait, maybe retire right when she graduated, but I pulled the trigger a little early. But she's a senior here at West Branch High School. And my son, as mentioned, is a sophomore at Iowa State. So real pleasure to be with you. This is a really important decision for board. So thank you.
wonderful. Well, we'll jump right in. Did everybody get a chance to see the PowerPoint, or would it be helpful if we shared it on our screen? What would be best for you guys?
I have it up. You can double duty if you want it.
Okay. Now, if you guys have it up, then we'll keep talking, so it's more face to face if that works for you. And if something changes and somebody wants me to put it up on the screen, just interrupt me at any time and we can certainly put it up there. Right. Oh, my computer likes to be slow at the worst times. So we're just going to go over what sets us apart first. And what the first page, page 1, where it talks about the firm. We are from Iowa. So we obviously have some Iowa pride, and we get real excited about the Iowa searches because it's our home state. And there's that pride factor. We want to make sure we get the best of the best for our kids because it's what we're all here for. We're out of Iowa, but what we do and what we do different than our competitors, we are a national search firm. So what people that do regional searches, they're going to find you the best from the Midwest, and that's awesome. That's great. What we're going to do is we're going to find you the best of the country. We're going to find you the best of the best. My end goal is when we get to the meeting where we present you the candidates who we've screened and vetted and recruited, is that you guys all have a very tough decision. I want it to be a very hard decision because of the quality of candidates that we brought to you. And we'll have candidates from all across the country. Normally we have anywhere from 48 to all 50 states covered when it comes time for the people that we've reached out to and recruited. That does not mean that everybody who applies will be in all of those 50 states, but we reach out to a database and we hit every single state so that we get a broad range of the best for you. We also advertise nationally with AASA, which is the American Association of School Administrators, NSBA, which is the National School Board Association, NAPSE, the National Alliance of Black School Educators, and ALAS, which is the Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents. We've been in business for over 45 years, and we have relationships built up with these advertising venues and the people that work there. So not only do they post their job on their website, but they also start reaching out to their network, which is invaluable. They may know some up and comers, and they may know somebody who's not necessarily looking for a job, but may be a great fit. And that's who you ultimately want. You don't want somebody who's been bought out of a contract. You don't want somebody that is being let go or is looking for somewhere essentially to hide or to get away from a problem. You don't want that. You want the rock stars. You want the ones that are doing great, great things so that they can come and do great, great things at Gilbert. And we'll do that with the national advertising. Kevin, I'll let you talk experience if that works for you.
Fantastic. I appreciate what Molly's sharing. I know, before even script here, I want to tell you as a superintendent, everyone who's a leader in Iowa, a superintendent in Iowa knows about Rain Associates because it is truly, and I can speak to just the premier search firm and obviously the homegrown piece of Iowa is a pride there, but also Midwest and then a nationwide business. And it started in 1975. I met Ray a long time ago, even when I was just a teacher. I remember years ago meeting him and just really impressed with the company. And, their primary business is executive searches. I think that's the primary business. And I think that's why their reputation is so great. They don't have 10 other side things. They're really focusing there in that work, which is critical. And the other thing that's impressive to me is just, and we'll get into some details on this and if you have questions later, but the amount of the women, minorities, people in this organization, it's like the gold standard. They're trying to get 30 or 40%. I've just been impressed looking at the data around Ray Associates. And so there, again, talking about the pool of candidates, that's going to increase the pool of candidates you can have in just this nationwide. And just as a real side note, when I applied, and I can tell you just off the cuff that West Branch did not use Ray and Associates, even though I had applied years ago at Ray and Associates, they did not. So I went to West Branch after being in Bettendorf. And, I probably the reason I got the job, honestly, is they had about 12 candidates total apply for the job. And, I was new, I hadn't been a superintendent, which was a blessing for me. And trust me, it was a wonderful experience. But I noticed in what we're presenting today, it's a little more detailed, comprehensive experience that you'll hear about from Ray. And so, just wanted to share that with you.
Wonderful. Another big part of what helps us stand apart is our associate continuity. As I mentioned, we've been in business for 45 years. We actually have one associate who he jokes around that he was around when it was Ray and Associate, because he was the very first associate. So we have people that have been with us from the very beginning, and they've watched us grow into where we are now. And that's what's so great about when it comes time for recruitment, because again, you don't want just the best in Iowa. And there's a lot of great superintendents in Iowa, but we have associates all across the country, from California to Connecticut, New York, Florida, Texas. And so once we get an open job, we give them a heads up and say, hey guys, we have this position coming up. Who do you know in your network, or who can we start reaching out to? And that's where we really generate a lot of our candidates from. We don't owe any favors to any candidates. We do not do any favors for candidates. We do not keep a stable of candidates. We work for the board. And I think that's really important to kind of keep in the back of your brain, is we're not shuffling people around from district to district. We want the best of the best, and we go through our associate network. We go through our associates all across the country to find you the best, whether it be from Oregon or Texas or Wisconsin or even Iowa. We go that route. As Kevin kind of mentioned, our diversity piece, and Kevin, if you want to jump in at any time, but our diversity is something that we're really proud of as well. I know that Kevin kind of touched on that earlier, but that's something that we're really proud of, especially in today's day and age.
Yeah, that diversity piece is really critical, reflective of our students we serve. You're trying very hard to get staff and leaders that are reflective of who we serve, our students, our community. So very, very important. And like I said, I was really impressed that they really are at a 40% with their associates and consultant level of women and minorities in that field. So that, again, the candidate pool will be enriched by that, certainly. And so speaking of the pool of candidates, I've got a couple of notes for you that I'd like to share, and I won't insult your intelligence by reading it. I've actually flipped over to 6 if you want to look there. You know, again, I mentioned something earlier. I think it was 16 to 18 candidates that came to the West Branch. It wasn't Ray and Associates that conducted that about 9 years ago when I was there, right? But it was like 16, 17 candidates. I know for a fact that, especially a great place like Gilbert, which is a growing community and really a dynamic place, great facilities, great teaching, great reputation, you will get a pool of candidates. Ray will have a pool of candidates, 40 to 50 candidates that are really qualified people. Honestly, in the West Branch one, they told me later, they didn't tell me this after I got the job. They told me, you know, about 8 of them had to be just, they weren't even qualified to be superintendents. So that, you know, that was benefit for me. But honestly, I have to tell you that Ray and Associates will have a great pool of candidates for you to look at, which will improve your search.
And so we'll dive into the process a little bit. I know that you guys have all seen our process and our proposal, and it talks about more in detail on the step-by-steps that we do. But something I do want to let everybody know that during this time with COVID, we have now conducted over a dozen searches. We never stopped, even when everything when the rug came out from underneath all of us this spring, we still kept going, and we placed successfully throughout that. There are ways that we've trialed and errored, and we've really knocked it out of the park. So throughout the process, whether you want it to be in person or virtual, we can do either option. And especially, you never know what's around the bend next week as far as where we're at. But we have success doing a completely virtual search. We can also do a hybrid where it's a mix of both, or in person. It's whatever you guys want to do. The main thing I want you to take away from this is that it's your search and that we will customize it to what you guys want. We will obviously help advise, and that's our job as consultants to let you know, hey, this did work for us, this didn't work for us. But our job is to be consultants and help you get where you need to be, and we want to customize it for you guys. We want to have board input. We want to have community input, and that means we do an online survey, and we can do that in any language. I've yet to be stumped by a foreign language. I've got a district out in Utah right now, and they gave me a list of languages, some I'd never heard of, but I went through the University of Iowa and they helped me translate, and we got it taken care of. But we do the online survey, and we also do stakeholder input, and that can be in person or over Zoom, whichever you prefer. But we like to get that stakeholder input throughout the process so that your stakeholders in your community really feels connected and like they have a voice during the search, because this is ultimately who's going to be leading their children. And that's something that we all know everybody's passionate about, is when it comes to your children and their education. So it's something that we really like to be all inclusive with the board and the community. We like the stakeholder comments. If I could talk tonight, goodness, it feels like a Monday. And we will present the results to you once it's all said and done, so that you can see the comments that were coming back from your community, and also see breakdown from your groups of your teachers, what they're looking for in your next superintendent versus what your students are looking for, parents, administrators, support staff. We really break it down. So it's a really great tool to have even after the search is all said and done. You still have those comments, you still have that feedback from those groups, and it's really invaluable.
Yeah. And, you know, and Molly highlighted those that 7-step process, very comprehensive. I want to talk to you about the board input piece, which I think is critical for you as board members. It's your search. Obviously, Ray and Associates will be there to support you in any way possible, certainly give you guidance on any questions you might have in that process. But it really is something I appreciate about it. It really is your search. So, you know, even from individual interviews with individual board members to get their take on what the needs and profiles might be for a candidate, you know, and the board determines the stakeholder groups. I know with some firms, they're going to say, hey, you have like 4, we'll meet with 4 groups, or we'll meet with, you guys determine the stakeholder groups that will be giving input and the number of groups and things like that. You determine the timelines and, you know, the compensation piece. Obviously the guidance could be there from Ray and Associates, from our group, but you determine those things, and really you determine the final profile. It's not some, you know, just template of things. Hey, here's what you should get. You know, this is your job, that you want to have the best, and you want to tailor it to your district. What is it that your district needs from your next leader of leaders? Because can't just be the leader. They've got to lead others and other leaders and grow other leaders. So I think that's something I really appreciate about this process, and you will see that happen for sure. So yeah, I'll turn it back to Molly.
Wonderful. When it comes time for recruitment, this is something that we're very, very passionate about. As I mentioned, we don't owe any favors to anybody. We just want to find you the best. We will aggressively recruit top candidates for the position. We personally reach out, especially if there's somebody within your community or within your board that you've heard of somebody either at a conference speaking or that you saw them on a news or you saw an article in AASA. If there's somebody you want us to reach out to, we will reach out personally. Kevin and I will be picking up the phone and calling that candidate and talking to them. We want highly qualified, diverse candidates. The biggest advertising venue I can really, and I feel like I'm bragging on this one, there's obviously advertising venues all over that we touched upon earlier, but our website gets the most traffic. We have over 3,500 monthly hits from people taking a peek at our website to see what positions we have, what we have coming up, and people reaching out saying, hey, I'm in the market, or hey, my husband's taking a position here, I'm looking at moving to the Midwest. That's really, it's invaluable. And that goes back to the fact that we've been in business since 1975 and we have a reputation built up over those 45 years of being transparent and fair. We will advertise with productive venues and other channels, social media included. And the thing that I think is really important too is that, and Kevin can kind of touch on this as well, but we won't come back and try to recruit any candidate that we place for a minimum of 5 years. And I don't even like saying that. It's longer than that. We don't poach on our candidates because ultimately our business is built on reputation. That's how we advertise. We want boards to feel confident with us so that if something happens, in 10 years when your superintendent retires, the one that we placed, you can call and say, hey Molly, hey Kevin, we're back in the market. Can you help us out? It's word of mouth and reputation, and we take our reputation incredibly seriously. And then when it comes time for the completed applications, we have about 4 to 5 times more applicants than the majority of firms. And I know Kevin touched on that, and I'll hand it back over to Kevin, but I think that that's something really important to keep in the back of your mind is that you want a broad range of people to pick from so that you get the best.
Yeah, one to Molly's point, something that happened with me that, as the board, went through the process. I will leave names out of search firms, but they went through the process. And a couple of things I'm reminded of as we were going through a little prepping earlier is, about 8 months after I had the job, the same company was calling me about some other opportunities, which on one hand, you're like, oh gosh, they must feel like I'm doing a really good job. But at the same time, I thought, boy, that just something about that wasn't so. When I noticed that about Ray and Associates, they will not, and I've heard this from others, they're not going to call and poach the candidate that they just put for you because they know they're a great candidate. That's a great thing. The other thing I can tell you is that the comprehensive nature of the process with Ray and Associates, just speaking with other superintendents and other hiring situations, was very top notch and very supportive in terms of the candidates in front of you. And the 8 to 10, as mentioned earlier, it's just a pretty comprehensive process. So the next thing I note here is just that final piece. Molly, if you want to jump in before that, but there's some things here that are just really important for us. The interviewing and final selection piece, you'll be supported through all of that work. Assist the district reaching contractual agreement. We'll assist you with that as you work through the contracts with comps or whatever you need to do with a leader that you're bringing in when you make a final decision. Something that's very unique that I have not seen on some of these before is it's a 2-year guarantee, and I can Molly explain more of that. There's 2 years of guaranteeing that we will be there to support, to follow up. Another personal note, once that interviewing process was over and, they called me and said, Kevin, would you like the job? And of course I was upstairs, I jumped around a little bit and woke my wife up and everything, but I never heard from them again. I never saw the company that was talking to me until about 8 months later, when I think they thought I was doing a good job. And so anyhow, I just wanted you to know that was, that you will not have that. You'll get follow up with your superintendent, your leader, and that will be done. And then also they have board self-assessment pieces that will go through that they use with the superintendent, and that's at no cost. They will use that with you. And I think that would have been good. Anytime you create feedback loops for your new leader, especially a new leader, that is really important. That kind of onboarding piece supports that. And so, and they're really going to be building teams and learning the culture of your district. And it's so important to support them. And I think Ray and Associates will do that with follow-up. I know that.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off of what Kevin said, when we bring you the 8 to 12 top candidates for the board, we've already screened them based off of your profile. We've also started the initial background check so that we'll know the good, the bad, and the ugly. So when we do our reference checks, we call obviously the people that they have listed as references. But I think we all know that when we filled out job applications, we've never put down a bad reference for ourselves. So what we do is we start doing some more homework. When we talk to the candidates and say, are you interested? We call their past board president, even if they're not listed. And we go back about 3 to 4 jobs because we don't want any surprises. Especially in today's day and age, you can't hide anything online. Everything's out there, whether we like it or not, it's out there. So we do those extensive background checks and internet checks on the top candidates that we present to you. Now that does not mean that out of those 8 and 12, for the rest of the people that applied, that you can't look at them. You will have access to every single application and all of their materials to review. And if you elect to bring somebody that we did not screen, we'll go home that night and Kevin and I will start doing our background checks and screening and calling references and making sure that everything is top notch on that candidate. It's your search. You have full control over this. Another great piece that we offer, and I don't think a whole lot of other firms are doing it yet, I should say yet, because I'm sure that they're going to start, is we offer a video interview. It's a one-way video interview, and it just saves on expenses, and it helps the board feel a little bit better about who they're bringing in for a first round interview. So out of those 8 to 12, you will see each candidate answer 3 questions, and they are timed, but they sit in front of their computer, very similar to what we're doing tonight, and a question pops up and they record themselves answering it. And you will get to see those videos on all the top candidates. And it kind of gives you an idea of how they're going to interview and their personalities. And it helps you kind of gauge so that when you narrow that number down to who you want to bring in for a first round interview, you can do so with a little bit more confidence. Another great thing that we offer is once you get down to your final selection of your top 2 or top 3 candidates, we offer criminal, civil litigation, social security, sex offender, motor vehicle, verification of educational degrees for the top 2 to 3 candidates, and that's no additional fee. And that's something that's really important, especially in the HR world. Once you hire your ultimate candidate, you don't have to worry about doing that background check. It's done for you. And we use a company here in Iowa. We like to support local if we can, and they do a fantastic job, and they stand behind their work with a guarantee as well. And we've never been surprised by them. We've never had a surprise pop up after a search they've done. So we're really excited about that piece that we can offer now at no additional charge, because it says no surprises. And that's the whole goal, is when you hire somebody or when you bring the top 2 or 3 in, you're going to know them like the back of your hand. You're going to know exactly what you're getting into. When it comes time for getting to that spot, we do offer a consensus building matrix. And that really helps the board come together. It takes out, I like to tell people, it takes out all the emotion. It puts it very black and white, and it helps you rank the candidates. You are in no way obligated to take those top 2 or top 3 or however many that are ranked. You're not obligated. It just opens the door for a discussion with the board. So once we get done with that and you hire a superintendent, kind of what Kevin discussed, we do a transition piece. So what we'll do is every 6 months after you've hired your superintendent, whether it be male or female, we'll check in with him or her, and then the board, and we'll do a survey essentially with everybody every 6 months, as long as that superintendent is hired. And we will offer workshops. We will offer any support we can to the board and superintendent as long as they are in office. And I think that that's really important. It's an ongoing relationship building piece that we help kind of keep everybody on track. And it's just it's a self-assessment that helps assist and develop a plan moving forward.
To Molly's point, another thing that's connecting to me in terms of what this process will be for you guys, should you select us, is that something that I've always mentioned in hiring, and I think you guys know this, is so we can put together a really great group of candidates based on what Molly's sharing with how we will vet through them very well. And obviously past performance, we talked about this when I was leading my principals, the past performance is probably a good indicator of future performance. Not perfect, but pretty good. So you want to get these top-notch people that have actually accomplished things and actually led teams and led governance boards. Doesn't mean they couldn't be new to the field, but you might see that growth in them and that experience from their past experience, if they were a principal rather than just a superintendent. So I think that's really important to say as well, looking for those characteristics, as Molly mentioned. I just want to highlight again, that final process for you guys will be something that we'll help you guide through. There'll be all of the board of self-assessment pieces there for you to use that are in place from Ray and Associates.
And so what I did, guys, is I put up just the highlights, which are kind of bullet points of what Kevin and I just discussed, just so you could have it visually in front of you on the big screen. But what I would love to do is open it up for question and answer, so that if there's something we didn't hit upon that you would like us to, we would love that opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah, can you go over your costs, please?
Sure. So we do a base fee of $8,000. And that does not include advertising or candidate expenses. And just because we can't put that in there, we don't know how many candidates you'd want to bring in. What we can tell you is that it's usually anywhere between 500 to 1,000 per candidate. But we don't mark any of that up. We actually prefer the candidate to go through your district so that you see receipt documentation and you see exactly what you're getting. However, we will play middleman if needed, but we still submit receipts with every single piece that comes in there. Shipping is not included, but in the world of COVID right now, I'll be very honest with you, there is no shipping, especially being done virtual. It saves money on that end as well. Advertising, we don't include that because that's up to the board. You guys have ultimate decision on where you want to advertise and where you want to spend your money. I will be very honest with you. Advertising is kind of my gig. It's my favorite part of the search. And I'll tell you where you need to spend your money and where you don't need to spend your money. And it's very minor. I mean, I'll share with you right now while we're on this call together. The only two that I would want to spend money on for you guys would be AASA, which is $409. And then within our base fee, we cover a 30-day online posting with Education Week, so that wouldn't be any expense to you. So I would actually only recommend the $409 advertising. I wouldn't worry about any of the others right now. So that would be in addition to the $8,000. But again, anything that is above and beyond that $8,000, we send receipt documentation with every invoice because we want you to see exactly what you're paying for and what nothing is marked up with us.
Do you charge us anything when somebody gets on your site?
No, absolutely not. No, we share our site. It's an open site, and that we just want to get the word out. But there's no additional charge for that at all.
And then do we get feedback on how many people use that and also?
Yeah, so we just started finding out, we can actually track now how many people are clicking on each job, which is really exciting. We just started that this year, and I apologize for not hitting that earlier. We have about 3,500 a month hits on our website as a whole. But we can actually track now how many people are clicking on your job and actually looking at it. And that would be part of our weekly reports. Typically, that would be an email from either Kevin or myself, and that would go to the board president, and we would just ask them to distribute to everybody else. But we would have an update on the number of candidates, kind of where they're from, kind of just a real generalization of where they're from, and then how many hits would be on your website as well.
Hits past the first page?
I'm sorry?
Hits past the first page. I mean, you can have a hit on the site and never go in.
Yep.
So if I hit on your site, then I want to go to jobs, so I would have to say, you have that information too?
You would have to click on, I can tell you how many people click on the website as a whole. And then when you click on the link to view the job for Gilbert Schools, I can tell you how many people clicked on that. I can tell you how many people have started an application and how many people have completed an application.
Perfect. That's good information.
Molly and Kevin, thank you very much. Can you give us an idea of the timeline? I mean, what would this look like if we're starting here in November? Just give us an overview.
Well, you're hitting a fantastic time of the year. I call it the sweet spot. You are right in there. The two biggest, and I don't know if anybody has told you this on the other firms, but the two biggest times to really make sure that your job is open is over Thanksgiving break and over Christmas break. You want to hit that time frame because people are home, they're with their families, they're discussing next year. Every superintendent starts kind of getting that thought process going towards November and December. So that's the time to hit. Since we're already in November, what I would recommend is getting started. As soon as you guys make a decision, we'd want to set up a first meeting, and that would be where we would go over the timeline for the search. We would go over kind of what the process is going to look like as far as needing board involvement and getting that survey up right away for your stakeholder. feedback. And then we would want to start setting up those sessions to meet with your community and your students and your staff or whoever you wanted us to meet with. But I would want to get that up and going and probably close your application. I would say probably early January, Kevin, if I had to guess. And then usually about 2 weeks is what it takes for us to screen and vet. And then we would have presenting the candidates to you. So you could actually, you would know who your superintendent is going to be by early February.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Molly, I have a question for you. How do you get to what kind of tools or processes do you have to do to kind of ferret out leadership, strategic thinking, kind of some of those leadership traits? How do you dig into those?
So it's a 3-part process. So Kevin and I will actually individually meet with each board member. And we're going to have a series of questions. It takes about 30 minutes or 40 minutes. And we ask a series of questions, and it just helps us get to know each of you better. You get to know us better, and we get to have a little bit more of a candid conversation about what you all are looking for, strengths, weaknesses that you've seen within your district, what you'd like to see better, what you love that you have now. And then we do something, again, very similar with your stakeholder groups. And we do that with standard groups that are on our survey, and I'll list those off real quick, but it's not limited to, as Kevin mentioned, we will meet with whoever you want us to, but it's typically your teachers, your students, your parents, your non-parent community members, support staff, and administrators. And so we would have sessions with each of those groups in addition to anybody else you wanted. And we would ask them a series of questions. Again, strengths, weaknesses, what do you like? What do you not like? Where do you see the district in the next 5 years? We really dive deep into what they're looking for, even without asking directly of what leadership skills do you want? And then the third, I'm sorry.
That's great, but I should have been more specific in my question with the candidates.
Oh, sure. Sure, with the candidates. So we have the application itself, but then what we do is we go through what their background looks like compared to what your profile has determined. And then we actually pick up the phone and call them. We have discussions with them. We have discussions with their peers. We have discussions with other associates across the country that may know them. And we have discussions with previous employers as well as their references. So we really get a great understanding of what their leadership style is like. What are they good at? What are they not good at? What's their background? What makes them ready for the next step? We really know those candidates inside and out. So when Kevin and I bring you those top 8 to 12, we're going to know them like the back of our hand. They're going to be our new good friends, and we're going to be telling you what's so great about them, what's strengths about them, and then what are some areas that they need some support on, and then you can make the ultimate decision.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Good.
Yeah, Molly and Kevin, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us tonight.
Thank you.
We're gonna have some conversation and see if we can't get to a decision in the next few days, but really do appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
We appreciate your time as well. And if there's ever any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to email or call us. We're always available, and we would welcome any opportunity.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Thank you so much.
Hi, guys. Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Best wishes.
Kevin, you can send us some lures.
Yeah.
I will do that. I might as well get it kicked off for them. I will do that for you. I'll send them over to the board.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Sure, yeah.
All right, so what do we have going online now, Jason? Just
recording. So is there anybody else?
This is
There are no more presenters. There are 15 people watching.
Sure.
just a regular. it's a
Sure,
short
that's
session.
good.
So we did have, as listed as the next item, some board discussion with possible action based off of what we heard today. Tyler, I thought you had a great idea when you suggested that the board members. create a
Yeah,
nature.
so maybe just real quick. So these were the 3 firms that IASB recommended. And we did a little bit of vetting just to make sure, yeah, it looked like it was fit. And I think this was a reasonable amount of time to understand where they're coming from. And I don't think we need to go into what our criteria were. John's pretty excited about it. Yeah.
I'm just playing with the.
Yeah, yeah. But I guess to keep things moving forward, I mean, what I've been trying to do, like I suggested others might want to, is kind of objectively grade them. And I don't know that we need to do an extensive amount of discussion if we just wanted to go around and say, well, who was your first and second choice, and see if we're close to alignment.
Could we vote one out? You'd be okay with that?
Yes, I think we should go around the room, maybe just give quick.
Who's
I
number
think
one?
if
Real
I
quick.
did, we'll end up doing that.
Yeah.
I think maybe say 1, 2, and why you put them that way.
Yeah.
You know, I think just give the high profile, not a ton of detail.
So that, I mean, if you're okay with that, I'd say we might as well get to it.
Yeah.
Sure.
You want to start? Or do you want-
Yeah, we want the answer first. It's a
Yeah.
lot easier.
Reader.
Okay.
I will.
I can go.
So,
Then that's-
my number one was Grunmeyer. I won't go into the different criteria, but they hit all of the criteria that I was looking at. And I think one of the important ones are the people that we're most comfortable working with. And so from that standpoint, I felt like Trent and Kevin would be good to work with. Not that the others wouldn't, but when I look at logistics, community engagement, job profile, and recruitment process, and candidate screening, I mean, they kind of hit all of those. So Grunmeyer was my number one, and if I had a number two, it was actually Pearson. So,
I'll kind of piggyback off of that, because if that's okay.
Yeah, I was just, maybe I should.
Yeah.
Again,
I'm writing it down.
Okay.
I agree. I like McPherson and Grunmeyer both, just because of the local field. I felt a little more connection. They knew more about our district. There's not a lot of story to tell there. I think they both, just from what they talked about, they both really knew who we were, kind of what we wanted, probably really initially. I'm not going to rank them just yet, but I did like the difference. It got me thinking a little bit between how they go to the stakeholders. McPherson was more of let's put together a group interview and talk to them. And Grunmeyer was more of the mass, go out mass and then maybe, I'll be honest, I don't necessarily know which one I like yet. I need to think a little bit on it. I like both approaches. I can see how both would work. But I have no problem at all with either of those. I'll throw that out there right now. So, good job. with
But
the
you
three.
would say those two.
Yeah, those are good.
I would say good job putting all three together.
Yeah.
I mean, good, that was all the more excellent.
Who wants to do this?
I'll go. One of the things that I did is I have a friend of mine who was involved in a local superintendent search. So I reached out to him to say, okay, what do you wish you would have asked now that you've been through the process? And so that was where I came up with how do you dig into the leadership thing. So, that was kind of the thing I might not necessarily honed in on, but that was where that came from that's something I wanted to really nail down on. And so that's what really put Grunmeyer as my first is that idea of these strengths. And then once we kind of get aligned on, hey, these are the strengths that we really like, those kinds of tools should just back up what is completely, that when you see it, you'll be like, yeah, that's exactly right. And really this idea of leveraging strengths versus looking for weaknesses, because that's where you're going to get the talent from. So that's why I had Grunmeyer number one. I thought, we should ask them for it. I don't know if it's in the paper or not, but if there's that 2-year guarantee offered by one, we should ask for that. I'm not sure that's not, but I made a note to myself. I didn't really miss on that. Really, I think Ray Associate and McPherson, were very similar in how I saw it. I'd probably go to the nod with McPherson just with the local folks there, but I don't see them as picking the one. I'm strongly behind Grunmeyer I thought their process looked good. I think we could take Grunmeyer if we wanted to go to a wider focus, send out a thing to everybody, get that feedback. I think we could do that with it as well. I like the idea of the mixed group. I thought that was kind of out of the box thinking that really get some buy-in and that, hey, they got a front row seat and provided the input that is the same as the board members' input. And so those two things really were strong for me that it made them clearly my preference.
Jeff, do you want to go next?
Yeah, no. There's certain things I like about each one, but I'm with Andrew. I like, as with all you guys, I'm with those top two. I like Rand Associates. I like their HR piece a lot. They talk about that. And what worries me about it is all their work is in Eastern Iowa. Not that that's a big deal today, but that's where most of their concentration is. The other two, I like the mixed things, and I like the Rand Associates. McPherson Jacobson. Going through this process, there's going to have to be some hands-on stuff. And I get that COVID's bad and I get all that stuff, but there's one better than the other as far as I think reached out and doing that. I would probably be with John and Tyler and with Greg.
So I also had Brenda Meyer as my first choice. I thought that they were the right blend of art and science to this. It isn't just about how you feel about somebody, or you can glean from a phone call, but also that the kind of science behind it and understanding the strengths and the tools. I liked that for me, it was the right blend of our participation in it. Some cases it almost felt a little black box-ish, like here, just let us do the work and we'll give you the answers to choose from. And I thought it felt like we were a little bit more involved in it. So for that reason, I said that they would be number one. And I would say secondly would be McPherson. And it really did. Their like kind of local feel I thought it's a strength. And I also know maybe it couldn't be, maybe it might not be a strength, if maybe we're looking for new or different or something, it might not be. But though they were my top two, but Brenda Meyer was definitely my first.
Well, I think we all pretty much agree with them.
Do you feel that way? I know you
I
guys
don't
said you
know.
had.
I like
some emotions.
McPherson Jacobson. I just don't know. I don't know if there's enough difference. I could live with either one. I thought for groups coming in here, I thought first one, I said, well, this will be easy.
Yeah.
And then the next group showed up, and I was like, holy cow. It's
Yeah.
not. So nice job.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice job. The
Nice
third
job.
group, they just didn't measure up. It wasn't a fit for our school. Big deal. They're plenty busy, they'll be fine.
Oh my gosh. they're all very good.
I like your question about getting asked them about that hard question about what happened.
Yeah. I do too. That was,
up. It was like,
and they didn't back off of it.
Yeah, I like that they owned it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I if you want to think about it, I respect
No, I told you, I am 100% okay. I wouldn't be there. If it would have
that.
been.
I think we moved that. And we
Yeah.
I'll make a motion for Grunmeyer.
second.
Okay. Any other discussion anybody wants to add? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
So question then for, I guess, for our group is how do we want to have, continue to have a point person, or how do we want to handle the connection with Grunmeyer?
I'll make a motion. Tyler does that.
I think we need a point. I mean, I like that. We need a point person, I think, it would be Gail.
Sure.
In regards to that, obviously, for the emails or all that confidential information. But I do think a point person, maybe from the board, if
Yeah.
it's okay with you, Tyler.
So
I'm happy to do it. I just want to make sure we're all on the same
I'm good.
page.
One of
so
the
John,
things
is that
too-
part of the motion? Is
No, we don't need a motion.
I think one of the things I would say though, following up on some of the things that I learned that I thought about, one of the things we should have is a contingency plan. Okay, we get down to it and they're filling out the money thing and, we wanted to, what does that look like? I think what they said with the guarantee for Grunmeyer is that, we'll do it up to a year or whatever it takes. But, I want us as a board to think about that now. Because if we get there and we're like, yeah, no, we're not ready to go, because our number one candidate was so strong, we look at 2 or 3, we want to go back to the well. And so I want to have those discussions before we get
You
there.
don't want to do that.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, say we had a candidate that was just lights out.
Right.
We can't come up with the money, but it makes us rethink 2 and 3. It's This is all hypothetical.
Well, I just looked at the guarantee for Grunmeyer, and in that case,
They
they'll
start over.
keep going.
Exactly, but I want us comfortable that we're not just automatically, we pick 2 or 3,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
if for whatever
I-
reason we can. And I like their
I
sheet.
get what
For another reason why I thought they were good was by having that sheet up front.
the pre-negotiation.
Yeah, it makes the probability of agreement a lot higher.
I thought that was. nice.
Yeah, they're supplying to the app.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you gotta remember, guys, you know, the one group said I have to step up, you know, there's 20 schools, we're number 9. You know, and when you pay people something, I don't know if you wanna be the leader, but you wanna be, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, right?
Well, and I think you look at the candidates and, you know, if there's that clear difference, you know, you step up to the plate. There's not, you'd be like,
Another-
well, let's go with number 2.
That's another thing why I liked Grunmeyer with, they're working with Dixie, right?
Yeah.
So they know the numbers.
Yeah.
Right, so I think they'll help there too.
Yeah, I thought the technology just looked to be,
A
you
little
know,
bit
one
notch
notch
ahead.
ahead
Yeah.
where it should be. I think.
So if we're
I
good
like
with,
your point though, John.
I mean, we voted on Grunmeyer. I'm happy to serve as point person. I mean, I'd be happy to just reach out to Trent tomorrow.
Yeah, and then sign for us, I can't sign for us.
No,
I don't think so.
The other question I had
I think-
that I want to bring up to the group, not to drag this out, but the question of how we do off-script questions. And so the idea is a candidate says something that needs follow up.
Yeah. you can have that.
And so a lot of them can have rigid questions that you don't get to go off script. But there could be a reason why you need to go off script because of what they provide. So I think, you know, have that conversation, you know, that what that looks like, Tyler, so we all understand.
yeah, my full assumption is we're gonna have plenty of time to engage
Go
with that
off
when we
script.
get there.
Yeah.
I mean, what we got right now, and you heard it, I think from all 3 firms, is we got a nice window,
Mhm.
but we need to keep moving forward so that over these breaks, the candidates that aren't necessarily looking go, oh.
Yeah.
over.
No, you're exactly right. But that was the other thing too, that you noticed my question was, is just sit and wait back for applications. That's not what we want.
Right.
You know,
No,
we
we wanna
want people that are looking
reaching
for
out.
referrals and willing to take those in and are looking for them versus, okay, here's what we got from the website. So I want,
That's
you
good.
know, hit them on that too. You know.
So you're gonna follow up with the other 2 also then?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, if you want.
I think you got
it.
And they all mentioned kind of, I mean, we heard twice, late January, early February, but with that said, I don't think we are in a rush to get it done. I mean, if it takes longer, it takes longer. I mean, that's,
I think we can be timely.
Yeah, the only urgency is that we've got it open and everybody knows it's available.
Right now.
After that,
We
I don't
can
think
do
we're
that.
in a hurry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we need a motion to give them some money up front.
Yeah.
Prove their contract, if you're gonna sign the contract, you gotta write a check.
We need to see their contract.
Yeah, I think we
I was
just,
like, wait, what?
We can do
well,
that.
I didn't know we were
But
getting
yeah,
money too. I thought they
We'd be
I was
were-
good,
talking about-
we'd be
yeah.
good, because we can get that money night.
Yeah.
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 that's why.
We'll get the contract.
It's just like,
Tyler, I'll need to speak to the board by noon tomorrow. So if they have a contract that we need to look at.
All right, I'll shoot something to Trent. Mark.
I'll bet they can get it done.
I bet-
I
do like-
got 10,000 reasons why they'll get it here by
I
tomorrow.
really do like what
They're
your
probably off a little.
your initial point, though, John. about-
Oh, yeah, 11. Yeah, that's exactly right.
You know, I do like your initial point though about that guarantee kick-in. Like,
Yeah,
I get that you have somebody else for us, but we're looking for something else.
yeah, I don't know what we're gonna sell. I don't think we'll have to, I think we're gonna have some good ones, but I do want to, you know, I think it's pretty small probability, but it's one of those things that, once you work it through in your mind, and if we get to that stage. we can be like, okay.
I mean, it's like most businesses, but I think it's especially true with these search firms. They want to have a good reputation.
Right.
So they're not complete.
Yeah.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Okay,
Aye.
bye.
Meeting is adjourned.